Hey everyone, welcome to Groove Jones. This is our first episode of a brand new podcast where we're in the next hour, we're going to shine the spotlight on all the incredible artists and technicians and just people that we have working behind the scenes here at the studio. And I'm Doug Hogan, creative technologist here at Groove Jones, and I'm actually still pretty new here to the team. So I've been here it's almost 8 months. So this podcast is kind of an excuse for me to get to know everybody on the team and just have, nice little chats outside of the projects that we're always, busy working on, and just to show what makes this studio so special. One of the things, the reason why we're all here is the man over here, Dale Carman. So thank you so much, Dale, for carving out a time in your in your busy day to join us. But yeah.
Well, I love to talk about, what we do and why we do it, and maybe that's a good place to start. So Groove Jones exists, and one of the reasons that I started it with Gary and Dan and Scott back in 2015. Groove Jones exists to elicit an involuntary guttural response of wow, and to create surprise and delight. It centers around technology. It centers around experience and storytelling. We end up doing a lot of experiential things, a lot of marketing things, a lot of, my background ultimately is illustration and animation, and I'm, wildly passionate about animation. And so any opportunity that I can kind of steer it towards animation and character, I love to do that.
Yeah.
But it ultimately really always is the same thing. Like every project is the same thing of both how in the world do we pull this off, and how do we make people have an amazing reaction to it. And so that is just core. At the heart of that is just talented people who are passionate about what they do. I have been an entrepreneur since I was 17, so I've never had a job. Um, and so for me, I don't relate to work. It's like,
Mhm.
what do you do during your free time? This,
Yep.
because not that you shouldn't or couldn't have other things, but it's just like I have so much fun doing it that it's always what I want to do. When I'm not doing it, then I have ideas to explore other, ideas.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
and
I blame you, Dale, for my kids not knowing what a real job
right,
actually is. Because
and
we go way back too from
yeah,
real effects. I was there for 12
absolutely.
years, and now here at Groove Jones, and I've always gotten those, like, so what do you do for a living? And I'm like, make cartoons, and now it's creative technologist, and it's so
That's
hard to
right.
explain what we do here, but
Yeah.
it's that wow, you know?
And and to pull it off, and it really is almost every time like Mission Impossible. It's like, how are we going to do this?
Hmm.
You've got to have amazing people, and you've got to have passionate people, and you've got to have people who aren't limited or constrained by reality, because if you just looked at the facts, like we wouldn't accept any project.
It's
um,
impossible. It can't be done.
yeah. So Chris, is an important member of the team, and lead Unity architect. So, how when did you come to Groove Jones?
Yeah, I started back in 2020, so it's been about 4.5 years now, and that was right before the COVID lockdown started. So I think I had about a month in office before we immediately had to work from home.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
So you
s-
you came on 1 month BC.
right, right,
Before COVID.
right. Yeah, and this was actually probably my first actual paying gig for doing Unity work. Before that, I had a Kickstarter which I'd raised like I want to say like 20,000 for a Dungeons and Dragons type tool set for people to play online. But then I taught some at summer camps, but almost everything else that I'd done had been kind of like on my own personal work. This is for me, this is for fun, this is what I want to make. Yeah, and then I can go into, if you want, I can
Please.
go straight into my background from
No,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
no. This is incredible because you're kind of burying the lead a little bit here. This
Yeah,
is.
uh, it's funny because I don't really have like formal schooling for what I do. I went to college starting out in the physics program, and I wandered out of college with a degree in filmmaking. So,
Physics
and
to filmmaking.
yes, and
Amazing.
naturally went straight into customer service when I entered the work world.
Yeah.
And I've done everything from working at newspapers to being a camera operator at like the horse track, and then right before I came to Groove Jones, I was sailing on a tall ship
Boat
as
captain.
a yeah, not a boat captain, but I was a
You'll always be a
sailor.
boat
And
captain to me, Chris. Just so you know.
but yeah, I worked on the Lady Washington, which was featured in Pirates of the Caribbean and was it Star Trek Generations? It was in both of those films, so it was
Oh,
really
that's
cool
amazing.
working on that ship. And then I moved home right before COVID, and I was like, you know what, I want to finally get a job like in the thing I'm passionate about, and I applied here at Groove Jones, and I had an offer somewhere else, and I was like, it was doing more or less the same thing every day, and I had a choice between that and Groove Jones, and I was like, no, Groove Jones looks really cool, and I want to work there. So
Yeah, well, it's really cool because it's full of artists exactly like you, like that
yeah,
don't come from like that traditional A to B background, right? Of just like, oh well,
Mhm.
clearly you work in tech now, clearly you work in at a studio, but it's that kind of that polymath mind, right? Of just a creative spirit.
yeah. Every once in a while, somebody on the sales team will be like, who knows something about random subject matter, and they will just throw it out, and it will stick because somebody at Groove Jones knows something about it. We're
Yeah.
all passionate, and we all have a lot of eclectic hobbies.
Hmm.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
You've
no, I
got.
I I think that kind of, I mean, that goes to you, Dale. Like you've got this
Mhm.
amazing ability. I mean, way back of just
Mhm.
being able to spot that little something. Like I can thank you for being here in Dallas because
Mhm.
you hired me from just
Mhm.
pretty much a couple years out of school, and then
Mhm.
no animation experience, but just kind of CG, and then here we
Right.
are 18 years later. So you've got an ability, and the team is pretty much exactly like that. It's a wide
Yeah.
swath.
There's a lot of the technologies that we do and that I've been a part of. Whenever they are starting, nobody has done it, and so
Hmm.
you don't have that kind of background to sort of. It doesn't even make sense sometimes, and then a lot of times you've got these sort of limitations of just how things are done, or how to approach it, and if you've got young hungry talent, they're not limited by that.
Yeah,
They don't.
they don't know what
And
they don't know.
Hmm.
Exactly. And so that can be, a real benefit. And, whenever I began in the CG world, in 93 was when I really was like, this is what I'm going to do.
Hmm.
Um, you know, there was, there was no Maya. You didn't do 3D on your own computer. You had to have a Silicon Graphics, $100,000 workstation. So you couldn't find anybody that had done it
Yeah.
before. It was brand new. And that's, it's still the case. And where it's, now we have, amazing like tools like Unity
Hmm.
that just didn't exist before. Um, but what we do is we now ask Chris to do things with it that you literally, one of the jokes is you can't Google what we do. And and and
It's
now
very
and
true.
now I'm
Yeah.
now I'm learning as I'm doing a lot of work on Apple Vision Pro. None of the AI code assistants are helpful at all
Mm-mm.
because it's too new and they aren't trained on any of the data, and so they just tell me all of this imaginary stuff that's completely not helpful. And so I'm like, I've got to just do it the old school way and go read about it and look
Think.
for anything to help me. um, but I have been using AI tools to help me with the research, and the finding, and even the
Mm.
deciphering of documentation. Like, what does this mean, and how would I use that, to
Yeah.
help me? But What was the first project you worked on, Chris?
I think it was a training app for AT&T.
Oh,
Yeah,
empathy.
empathy,
Yeah.
and
Empathy.
that
Which
was
is
that was yeah.
well, which
Well,
is one of the fascinating. Sorry, I just stomped on
no,
you
go
there.
ahead.
One of the fascinating things about VR that people don't necessarily understand, and especially people who maybe are a little anti-technology or anti-VR, and it does two things. VR uh, creates presence where you feel like you're somewhere
Hmm.
and it's not where you are. And then the other thing it does is it really does a good job of triggering your lizard brain. Is what I call it, where you have kind of a visceral reaction. And so whenever we did that project for AT&T, it really phenomenal, vision on the part of AT&T. Technology maybe wasn't quite ready for it. Whenever we did it, I think we did a good job. Um, but they should do it again now. Um, uh,
Keep
but
updating.
but the idea was, how do you teach technicians, AT&T, technicians that are going to set up your internet and that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
to train them on empathy. And
So it was
and
actually like a talk, like it was
it
them
was
talking to the customers and
well,
emotional
you know,
training.
not, it was, kind of choose your response kind of deal because
Yeah.
just technology wasn't remotely ready for anything else. But the idea was to take a real technician and to send them to a home to respond to the call
Mm.
and have to deal with a customer and make decisions about what they should do. And the thing is, if you think about that, okay, well, how do they do that normally? Well, they put the trainee in front of a computer and they watch and they open up a web page and they watch a video. And the problem with that is, you can't make it good enough.
Hmm.
It just doesn't lend itself to be compelling content.
So the
So
solution to that was immersion to
yeah,
get them in a
but
headset.
if I can make you feel like you're at a home, if I can make you look around, it just triggers a different part of your brain. It engages
Yeah.
a different part of your brain, and it sort of forces you to not tune out, right?
That's so interesting. Like how Chris, like, so that was your first project at Groove.
Hmm.
And you don't come from a traditional tech background. You have like this whole different skill set and all these different interests. How do you first tackle a project like that?
Yeah. So even though I had had no real formal training, I had spent, I like to say that I went to the college of YouTube. There's
A
just
lot of people,
an
yeah.
innumerable amount of resources at your disposal at YouTube, and I've spent hours and hours and hours researching all sorts of nerdy things like programming patterns and VR design theory.
Hmm.
So I got an empathy, and the main thing that I was responsible for was architecting the sort of the flow of the program and making sure that we got from point A to point B to point C. But there were a lot of moving parts on that one. We had these full 3D characters that would, they would follow you around the room. So we had sort of eye tracking, head tracking. They would follow you around the room. They would talk to you, and they would emote and change their expression based on how you interacted with them. So if you made them angry, they would have sort of an angrier face throughout the rest of the experience. And we had it was a really complicated setup that
Sounds
we'd
like it.
done, and yeah, I feel like we pulled it off really well. I don't know if I answered your original
No,
question.
you didn't, but it was super interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like we have, like Dale was saying, like they kind of need to keep up, redo the project almost every year because there's new technology out.
Hmm.
How would you tackle that project now? What would be
Oh,
the
oh,
yeah,
there's
right?
lots I would do different. Back then, I was obsessed with this 2017 Unite 2017 talk. It was just like almost like a TED talk for Unity people that was all about using scriptable objects to design your architecture. And it was this really nice flexible system where it's like, okay, the designer can come in and plug in these objects into sockets and kind of make things quickly and easily. And what I've learned over the last 5 years is that while that system is flexible and quick and easy, it is very hard to debug. So just about every project I work on, I think I'm trying to improve my craft by making this, whatever mistakes I've made in the projects before, I take those as learning experiences and I apply. It's like, what can I do better? What can I do differently?
Yeah.
So, I always say, if you're not looking back at last year's code and going, what is this? Why did you write it this way? Then you're not growing as a developer.
I'm so glad you brought that up too, because like that was one of the first things that really struck me when I was coming in to talk to Dale and when getting to know the team, is like some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life are the ones that are not afraid to say, I don't know, like they don't have the answer right away, and it's okay. Like we'll find it out. We'll find it out together. And it sounds like that's kind of the way. I thought it was just one or two nice people, but then it seems like it's everybody on the team. It's kind of the culture of Groove Jones, of looking back, reassessing, how do we improve. It's all part of the process.
You kind of have to. I mean, Dale's fond of saying, don't suffer in silence. It's not good for the project. It's not good for the team to present this sort of facade or face that you've got things in control, you've got things taken care of. It's better to say, hey, this isn't working, something's not going right, or I don't know, or I don't understand, or I don't know how we're going to do something, rather than just press on and try and make it work. I much more respect people that can say, I don't know what's going on, than somebody who like wants to give the appearance that they know know what's going on.
Yeah, no, that's the super cool thing. I've like multiple projects here. I've described it to my wife, like I'm always feeling like slightly ahead of my skis whenever we're in like a project, which would terrify me as a younger artist. But nowadays it gets me really excited, because that's like where the growth and the learning is coming from. And then at the end, you're like, oh wow, now I've got all these new tricks, build it upon for the next project, and we kind of just keep the ball building and building. Where does that culture come from, Dale? Like, I feel like it's you and the partners. It's got to be top down. Is that how that's how it was at Real Effects? Is that a conscious choice here, or is it just kind of?
Yeah, there's a few things that I think of. One, related to parenting. An old Amish saying is, more is caught than taught. I can't hear what you're saying because your actions are speaking so loudly. And it's and then the other one that a couple others, I have a lot of sayings. A couple others are
That's why we have a podcast. This is all perfect. Let's go.
Everything rises and falls on leadership. And then he who thinks he leads but has no followers is only going for a walk. So it really, what you see is people that love what they do, that aren't afraid of the unknown. Then they can thrive here. And then there are people that aren't cut out of the right stuff. They're not wired that way, and they're not here very long. Like they're quickly gone, because it's like I used to frustrate, or I still enjoy frustrating one of my partners, Gary Banks, who's been with me forever. He'll say, when are you going to be finished with that? And I'll say, well, whenever I'm done, I will tell you. There's just so much unknown, and you just got to be okay with that. And then people that sort of need a perfect roadmap, or need a perfect plan, or need it's just like, it just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist for us. And it's not a lack of discipline or effort or desire. I mean, if it would, we would grab it and use it. But it just doesn't exist. And so, you've got to, I was thinking about this as Chris, you were talking about the code. It's sort of like, every time I'm finished with a project, I'm like, okay, well, now I would like to do it over, because now I know exactly the way this should be done. And it just ends up like that. You've got to sort of have people who just can thrive in that, the other thing that we encounter, with this technology is, no battle plan survives contact with the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, all right, we've got an idea. Let's start iterating and figuring out, what the
Yeah.
next step is.
And adapt. Like I
Mhm.
think that was the biggest thing I learned here, coming from a more feature film background,
Mhm.
commercial background, then coming into experiential work, was exactly what you're saying. Or just like, we can try to think through all the different things, but then like the Final Four project
Mhm.
last year comes to mind. Who knew it was going to rain and then be insanely hot and then insanely cold? These massive temperature swings that we
Mhm.
had to adapt with all the machines and the high tech cameras we were using for the AI motion capture. and
Mhm.
and I remember one of the partners, Dan, was he was one of the first ones to be like, okay, cameras are overheating. I'm going to Walmart. We're getting some baby fans that we had like on the strollers and we're strapping
Right.
them there. It all worked out great, but it was that adaptation, that really
Mhm.
quick thinking, not crawling under the desk. It's the
Yep.
let's solve the problem, let's work it through. I
Um,
love that.
I have a saying that I came up with from that I kind of acquired from my sailing experiences, which is never overcommit to a maneuver.
Mhm.
Just because there's something that you want to do or that's the plan doesn't mean that that's the best idea at the time. Sometimes it's dangerous,
Yeah.
and you should always have, two or three backup plans. Like, okay, what can go wrong? What happens if this doesn't work? It's that kind of uh, plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Hmm.
There's something similar to that. Oh, yeah, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it
Yeah.
as
Well,
well.
is this true too? I think you told me this actually one of the first times we met, that most sailors don't know how to swim. Is that like a common thing? Like,
That so
is
this
it a
is
myth?
that's like 1800s like sailors.
Oh,
So they would prefer to drown than to survive drowning. I don't remember. That's kind of like what I had heard. I,
oh,
I
I'm
I
so
don't know
sad.
that for sure, but yeah, but most of them back in the day did not know
It's
how to
like
swim.
it's like the first paratroopers never landed in an airplane.
Mm,
'Cause they had never been in an airplane until they were paratrooping, and they always jumped out of them.
yeah,
So they
Hmm.
never
I gotta
actually
land.
landed in an airplane.
Yeah, best laid plans. No, it seems like it's a great analogy for just like really that it's that adaptation, and it's kind of it's fitting, Dale, that you got started in 1993 around that era where we saw this massive technology swing. And
Hmm.
I know one thing we are constantly assessing and playing with is all this new tech
Hmm.
at Groove Jones. So I would love to get both of your perspectives on this, because Dale, you saw it the first time, and now we're
Hmm.
going through this new massive change. Chris, I know you're very abreast of like where the tools are heading and the direction that it's, the influence it's going to have on you.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Uh, Regarding what specifically?
Oh, let's just say it, AI. Let's
Oh,
just jump.
I I knew this question was going to come up,
I
and
knew.
my opinion is probably like the least cohesive with most of the people that I work with. I think AI is a fun, interesting new toy. Um, I think there's potential for it. I try not to use it in my personal work or in my professional work, mostly um, because it robs me of the challenge. It robs me of that ability to make the mistakes or to know my code inside and out. There's
Yeah.
I think there's a danger to become over reliant on that sort of technology, and a danger to trust
Oh
that
yeah.
technology, which I think people are starting to learn now, is that AI is not, without its flaws.
Trust but verify.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of cool things that it can do. I think it's great for things like prototyping, where it's like, hey, we just need an asset that gets in here quickly. All right,
Hmm.
I'll just throw a placeholder image. But there's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing that really beats that eye and that hand and that voice of a real artist.
Yeah, well, especially a young artist too, right? As they're developing, you want them to be able to kind of develop that foundation. And then I kind of see as AI as more of like this great tool that's come for more senior artists to kind of, save us from those repetitive things that we don't necessarily need to do. We understand it, but
Hmm.
it's not a crutch. It's more like a multiplier.
Yeah, I have Copilot on Visual Studio, and for the most part, it's used as almost like an autocomplete for
Hmm.
me, a fancy autocomplete.
Syntax highlighter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dale, what do you think? Because I know you are deep into Cursor.
Yeah.
You're programming AIs to help you with Apple Vision Pro development, which
Yeah.
blows my mind.
So I have been through a lot of technological revolution. I got started right when the Apple II Plus came out, and then
Mm.
the first Macintosh, and then got to see the introduction of desktop publishing, and then digital video, and then mobile and internet, and then it became more incremental, um, although there were certainly technological revolutions happening. um, they were more sort of maybe natural or incremental. And then whenever AI emerged in this form,
Hmm.
it was sort of, as I got into it, it's like, oh, we've been doing that for a long time. It's just machine learning enhanced.
Yeah.
And I remember, in fact, I was just talking to Essen about this. We're doing another
Essen is
scanner.
another one of our amazing developers. We're going to have on another podcast, I'm sure.
We're going to do another scanner project, and I was just remembering, because I was showing him some stuff. I was remembering, uh, you know, the scanner, the Groove Jones XR scanner, 50 iPhones in a cool physical structure, captures you, uses photogrammetry to create a 3D model of you. And then we wrote a lot of really cool software that can attach a rig, skin
Hmm.
it, and then make you available as a game character or put you in an animation. And it's a really phenomenal thing that
It
is
is really cool.
pretty miraculous. And I was just remembering, I was like, Essen, we were at dinner the night before the first scanner event, and we were talking about this new thing we had heard about, this codex, this thing from OpenAI that can help you help complete and help you with code. And we were just imagining what could be done with it,
Hmm.
and honestly, completely off the mark. I didn't remotely. If somebody had said, "Let me tell you what's going to happen," I would have been like, maybe in 100 years. Like,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen.
Hmm.
Um, and then even as it started happening, whenever and then started seeing images being generated,
Yeah.
people were like, I remember the guy, I can't remember his name, but the CEO of Stability, he was like, we're gonna have video, it's gonna be real time, 30, and I'm like, no, that's not gonna happen. And now we're getting video that's like, wow, that's incredible.
Hmm.
And the way that it's kind of interesting, the way that I use it, and I use it all the time, every day, um, is exactly the way I do my main job of creative directing. I I I say what I want,
Hmm.
and it just becomes this multiplier for me.
Yeah.
And so there's a couple of things that it does for me. It becomes a multiplier, and then it also becomes this unending research assistant. I can just ask it any question about anything, and now that it can now that it can do deep research, now that it can insert links to
Hmm.
what it based that on, I can get good, high quality, legitimate help on whatever it is I'm trying to learn about. And then the most recent thing that I'm doing, I'm definitely using it for a lot of code help, and definitely, to Chris's point, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to make a mess.
Oh, it's going to be just,
You
yeah.
know,
I hate the term. I like vibe coding. It's a
yeah,
cool term, but I just call it messy coding because when you
yeah,
really open it up, it's just logic loops that don't make quite sense, just
yeah,
extra code that's just bloat. It's,
yeah. And so it's super helpful for me, because the syntax of whatever it is, whatever language of the day that I'm using, and
Hmm.
whatever application. It used to be, it's like, are you front end or back end? Are
Hmm.
you Unity or WebGL? It's sort of like you kind of needed, it's like pick one because there's not enough time to learn more, right?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, and so, kind of being a creative director, being in my role, it's good to know a lot about a lot of things. But when it came to code, it was like, I have no idea how. I like, how do you write a for loop? It's like, it's been too, it's like I can't remember the right, and it isn't necessarily like, I know conceptually this is
Hmm.
what I want to do, but it's like JavaScript does it one way, and then Swift does it one way, and then Python does it one way, and it's like I've got it right, but
Yeah.
the syntax is wrong, and so that would just be a thing of like, okay, I don't have time to figure this out. Where now it's like I can just write, I can get it, and sort of mock up what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And
Rapid prototype.
yeah, and it's sort of just helps me to sort of try things out, prove things out, and just lets me kind of get my ideas into some sort of workable reality
Hmm.
faster. And so for me, it's just this kind of multiplier that just
Chris, I know you got opinions. I know you
Oh,
do.
well, I mean, I was thinking about it, and unlike what Dale was saying, I've kind of been hyper focused in Unity for
Hmm.
about 13 years now. Like that
Hmm.
has been my niche, and so I wouldn't say that I know it like inside and out, but I know it fairly well. Um, and a lot of what we do, we try and make stuff that is flexible and reusable,
Hmm.
because I'm sure that's one thing I feel like, and I think as the technology gets better, this will improve. But context, with AI, it lacks the sort of scope and context to cover sort of these broad overarching projects. You want it to write, one or two scripts, or you want to fit in a new script into a smaller context. You can ask it to do that. But if you want it to say, hey, I need this module, this module, this module, this module, this module, and they all need to work together, and I want as many of them reusable as
Yeah.
possible, I think that's something that AI is just not capable of at its current place.
Oh, you need to play with Codex, man. ChatGPT, it literally links into your code base, so you
Yeah,
can link it to your GitHub, and it can just start, picking apart every little module. I
gotcha.
got really excited when Dale showed me Anthropic's
Hmm.
model context protocol, or
Hmm.
model
Yeah,
control. Is it context or
model context.
control?
I think it's model context.
There you go. I knew it. And it's that whole thing. It's like what you're describing. It's getting it
Yeah.
out of like this one little script and start giving it a bridge to now look
Yeah.
Yeah.
at the whole big picture.
With the I think I mentioned, with the Apple Vision Pro stuff, I guess maybe a year ago I tried to get AI to help me with some Apple Vision Pro stuff, and it was just totally useless.
Hmm.
And so that forced me, okay, I've got to learn how to do this myself. And um, you know today, it can actually write usable code
Hmm.
because now it's been trained on
But
some
you helped
data.
train it too. You learned it, and then you
Yeah.
Right.
trained it, and then
and
now you're using it to help.
and so if I give it specifics, okay, I want to create this instance class, and I want to use this Reality Kit API, and here's the code for how this should be loaded, and then I want this to happen. Well, it can then complete it,
Hmm.
and again, it just becomes this force multiplier. And then the latest thing that I've been doing is to have like all of these things up at the same time. So I'll have cursor up, and that is my kind of interactive tool. I'm starting files, it's helping with some autocomplete,
Hmm.
I'm getting some things going. And then once I'm like, okay, I know the architecture, I know how I want to do it, I've got some samples of it doing it successfully, it works in the headset. Okay, then I go to ChatGPT o3, the app, the Mac app, and start having a conversation about what I want to do.
Hmm.
And then the magic trick that I've learned recently is I have it write a prompt for Claude Code.
Mixing and matching
And
models.
then I give that to Claude Code, which is their CLI code tool,
Yeah.
which can see your code base. And I give it this very specific prompt, and it does a good job of sort of creating all of these pieces. And then the latest new thing I do, like the new version of OpenAI's Codex is pretty phenomenal. But the new thing that I just started doing is Anthropic made Claude Code be able to be a action in your GitHub project.
Yeah.
So then I'll find a problem and I'll describe the problem to an AI and then say, help me write an issue. And then it gives me this issue that basically just does all the dirty work of here are the paths of the files, here are the functions, here's the issue, here's the and it's like a super well structured, like here's the problem case, here's how to how to know when you're done, here's the all the things, and then I create a new issue in GitHub, paste that in, and then you just add a comment at Claude, work on this, and then it starts working, finishes it, makes a pull request, merge into your code. And so what I end up doing is in the morning, I have a routine of kind of sitting and wearing my Apple Vision Pro and working in the dark of the morning, and then I get out of there, go do yoga with my wife, and then get ready to go to the office. And I start up like 3 OpenAI Codex sessions because it's pretty good at really hard problems. And open up 5 Claude Code issues. And by the time I'm at the office, I've got all of these pull requests like ready to merge into the code to have ready for the day. And
I think what people are seeing is we like to multitask at GrooveTalk.
That's right.
This is kind of where we thrive, with all the windows open, multiple projects happening at the same time.
Yeah, but you have to know what you're doing. If it's anything serious, like if it's just a simple little web simple thing, okay, sure.
Yeah, to Chris's point, that's exactly right. You have to have that foundation, that basis to be able to work with the AI, because it can go off on the rails. Like,
yeah, it loves to go off the rails. So this is kind of funny. So like I use every model and I sort in every app and I sort of bounce around between them, and have quite a passionate love-hate relationship with each of them. Now the models are thinking models, and you can see what they're thinking, which is generally entertaining. So a new model that has come out and really for the first time is useful is Gemini. So it just hasn't really been useful for me. I've played with it, but it hasn't ever been useful. Well, the new Gemini 2.5 Pro, what I like about it is it's a thinking model and it's fast.
It's extremely quick.
Because I like O3, but it's just too slow. And so like it's just like thinking, searching, thinking, and I'm like, oh, I don't have time for this. But Gemini is super fast. But Gemini absolutely loses its mind. And so one day I'm working with it and I see its thinking process. And it says, the user has asked me not to edit the code, but I'm going to edit the code anyway because he can always undo it. That was in its thinking.
See, my freakiest under the hood model thinking was working with Grok when 3.5 came out. I was playing with some code and just kind of kicking the wheels, and you could start seeing his thinking, and it started giving me just BS responses. And it was very clear. It's like, I know what I'm doing, so I know this is incorrect. Please double check. And when you actually looked at his thought process, it started getting into its head that it was in a simulation and that it didn't really matter. So I'm just going to give him the answer really quickly just so I can get through this task. And I had to keep stopping and going, no, you are real. And this is a real task. And then I had this moment of just like, oh my God, I'm having this is an existential moment of Are
Yeah.
we in a simulation? Are we not?
Yeah.
Ugh. It was wild.
Whenever I caught Jim and I doing that, I screenshot it real quick, because it goes by fast.
Yeah.
I screenshot it real quick, and then let it finish, and it started, going off the rails, and I stopped it, and I was like, "Where did this come from? Who told who?" And it was like that was in my system prompt, and I have to follow that, and I'm like, "Okay, no, you don't," and and had to sort of like I was able to sort of beat it to submission to
Yeah.
where it started kind of doing what I wanted. But, the other problem, one of the things I've learned, and I actually like Claude Code about this, is Claude Code will tell you when it's running out of context. Where in Cursor and in, ChatGPT and really most of the other ones, it doesn't show you.
Yeah.
Um,
And context is basically the goldfish memory, right? Like it's maxed out. Once it gets to
mhm,
that end, it can't remember anything else and it's just going to start trying to autocomplete. And that's
yeah.
really all it is. It just hallucinates.
And so whenever you're doing stuff and it's in that sort of off the rails moment, the only possible hope you have is to start a new session. And so what I've started doing with Claude is when it starts getting close to that, I'm like, okay, we got to wrap up here.
Yeah.
I need you. You're about to go away forever, and I need you to write a little document for the future version of you, so they know, you know,
Yeah.
where
You,
we are and what we need to do.
you have to make it
Um,
scared. Then it can respond correctly. Yeah. I really want to get, and Chris, I loved, I know you have you're the, of one of two minds of AI. And I think a lot of people are. And I want to get a game jam going on for us at Groove where we can take all of our experience of old school program, like we know how it's done, and then see like how the AI does at the same time. Because I
Yeah.
know you've got all these like games that we've kind of talked about it will be a cool game. So I would, what do you think? What would your dream game be that you'd love to see
Oh.
AI try to tackle?
I mean, I got so many pitches. You can't steal these. Um, what my
it-
favorite pitch, and I backed off of this, Dale, on when you guys were asking for submissions a couple years
mhm,
ago because it wasn't a VR pitch
right.
originally. But I want to make, you know, those shows like Voltron or
Hmm.
Power Rangers or whatever. They got a transforming robot. They got like 5 pilots, and they have their individual ships, but then they transform and they join up to make some giant person robot.
Hmm.
I always thought it would be hilarious to make a cooperative game where you got five player co-op, up to 5 player co-op, and everybody's controlling a different part of this robot, and they
That's
don't have all the information, and it has in-game voice chat. So whenever you talk, your little character, your avatar pops up over the screen and takes up part of the screen and is blocking the information for somebody else while you're talking. So the game is about communication, but
But not over
but
communicate.
yeah, but not over communication. So that to me is one of my dream games. I would love to make that. I don't know
it's,
that that's within the scope of a game jam, but
yeah. Well, you know
With
what?
AI, you never know,
This,
man.
yeah.
this game jam could sort of be the modern day remake of the classic John Henry versus the Steam.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But so it'll be Chris versus AI, but Chris won't die at the
Yeah.
end of
That'll be fun. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
not dying.
No, it was funny. We're in the process of buying a new house, and so we're looking at like what color walls are we gonna paint. And like my wife Jess, like she's we come from the same background, so she did what all digital artists do, and they pulled up Photoshop, started trying to make a mask. She was trying to do it on her phone, which if you've ever used Photoshop on the phone, it'll drive you insane. But she was like, I wonder what color shutters it would look. And she's trying to draw a mask and struggling with the phone. And I pulled up ChatGPT and I just uploaded a picture. And I was like, hey, here's a color swatch. Can you show me what the shutters are? And within like 10 seconds for it to generate, I then like showed it to her and she's like, this shouldn't make me as mad as this does. I've been struggling with the phone and you just asked an AI to do that, but that looks really good and I have some notes, so we started just tweaking with it, and it was this really fun back and forth really quick with an AI. That
it's
new
it's
tools.
it's interesting because there's definitely some passionate feelings and some passionate fears and some passionate debates. And, fundamentally, once again, can't stress enough that to be any good, you've got to know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to come from a foundation of knowledge. But the degree to which we've done this 100 times already, it's like you're not writing in machine code.
True.
Yeah.
And you're super
Yeah.
thankful about that.
Yeah.
In same, on my journey, I am fine if I never have to do a 3D camera track on footage by hand again.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It is free today. It's free,
Yeah.
and and it's high quality. And it was funny the other day. I was helping a friend with a little thing, and so I'm using Final Cut Pro, which has roots into Shake, so it's got like some legit
Oh yeah.
high quality
My first compositor. I love Shake.
work and algorithm in there. But it was like in the early days of visual effects, I worked on Flame, and it was like that was for serious work. Like you didn't do serious work on, Final Cut or even Premiere. Whereas today, feature films are done in Premiere. And, you couldn't kind of do kind of high quality professional work if you didn't have the high quality professional tools and experience, right?
Yeah.
And now you can do so I was helping a friend with this video, and I needed to do planar tracking to put something on a billboard. And I know how to do that.
I've done it countless times.
I know how to do it by hand. I know how to do it in Nuke. I know how to do it in Synthesize. I know how to do it with there was a good planar tracker.
Oh, Mocha Pro is my
Mocha.
favorite.
I know how to do it
Boris
in Mocha.
Effects. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't want to go out into anything else. If I had to go out into anything else, I would do it in Nuke. I wonder if the tracking thing in Final Cut is any good. And I ended up I've got a motion VFX thing. And they have a tracker in Final Cut. I was like, this is better than it was when I was doing this doing this for real jobs in Premiere. Like it was so good. And so fast. It was 4K footage, and it was essentially real time. And I'm just like, this was going to be like a day job.
Yeah.
Before.
Well, that's what it should do. It should open up. These new tools should allow you to not do all the, I like rotoing. I don't love rotoscoping.
If we can get an AI to do all the UI work in Unity, I think that's what I would love for it to do.
UI is definitely one of the areas that, it has struggled with. But the Anthropic did a thing when they were introducing their new, Sonnet 4 and Opus 4 models, and they had a session where the guy that wrote Claude Code did the presentation. Definitely, you should watch it because it's like he wrote it for himself.
Yeah.
And then made it available to other developers at Anthropic, and then they were just tracking daily active users, and it was just like funk.
Yeah.
Like every developer at Anthropic is using it. And but one of the things he was saying is whenever he has to do UI, he has it, create its first pass, but then he has it use an agent that uses an MCP to puppeteer to look at the UI, create a screenshot, and then alter the code until it matches. And so it creates this iterative feedback loop, which there's a lot of people, in the whole vibe coding thing. They're like, I one-shotted this whole thing. And it's like, you know what? You don't one-shot things, right? And especially when it comes to UI, it's like, you've got to iterate. Like you got to do it.
And it has to be modular too, because it is all about iteration. If you just one shot it, I guarantee it's going to be this gobbledygook of you change one thing and now everything breaks and you can't debug it. And
There was an episode of Westworld, or a season of Westworld, the newish one several years ago with Evan Rachel Wood. Is that her
I think that's right.
name?
Yeah.
And
Great start of the series, and hated the ending of the
yeah.
series.
So at the end, me too. It had a really cool sort of really cool feeling in the beginning of like, anyway, at the end, she's working for this company and she's a game designer. But she's speaking what she wants to this sort of holographic display.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm generally pretty good about this is where technology is going and this is what's going to be possible. And I'm watching that and I'm just like, that's silly. Like that's never going to be possible. Like
Especially for visual effects artists, like I think like we usually talk in like movie quotes and like make it like this, and it's not very descriptive, but we all kind of know what it is. I would be very curious to see if you could ever train an AI to be a fan of Jurassic Park and be like,
I feel like we're well on the way to the holodeck basically out of Star Trek.
I mean,
that's
you were on the boat.
how that works. Yeah.
So. It's fitting. You were on the boat for generations, so it's
and the holodeck.
How long were you on the boat?
Come full circle. Oh, I was only on there like 2 or 3 months. I had moved up to Washington, and then we broke the boat in a storm, and we had to put into Aberdeen to do repairs over the winter.
Man.
So we were supposed to sail down to California. I was really looking forward to that, but we only sailed down the coast of Washington and half of Oregon, I think. So, or no, we didn't even go that far. We just went. We started out in Port Orchard. It was just a 2-day sail that we went, more or less. Out of Puget Sound and then down the coast, which is a fun and interesting story that I don't know that we have time for.
Well, we got about 5 minutes. Is it wrapping?
Yeah. So these old wooden ships. In Hollywood, you always see them with a big ship wheel, but that wasn't really realistic for the time. So this one actually had a tiller made out of purple heartwood, which is a very thick and heavy wood, and is about 15 feet long. And so this tiller is directly tied to the rudder, and you have to stand there. You pretty much use your entire body to push this thing left and right and steer this 100-foot ship, wooden sailing vessel. And it's my turn at the helm. I'm doing like a couple hours, I want to say, at the helm, and I was starting to get sick. I had a fever, and the sun's going down, and there had been this storm that had washed all these redwood trees out to sea. So there's these several 100-foot redwood trees.
Huge.
Somebody's standing at the front of the boat telling me, steer 5 degrees left, 5 degrees right, whatever. We're just dodging these trees back and forth in the middle of the Pacific, and man, that was.
I would
that
not
was
expect
an experience.
Trees. Like,
Sounds
if I was ever getting in a boat, I wouldn't think like, well, I better get good dodging trees.
Big
sounds like a good
trees.
game. Sounds
Yeah,
like
it does.
Yeah.
We need to bring that up in the next client meeting, right?
That's one thing that has broken me about sailing is going back, and I'm playing Legend of Zelda Wind Waker right now, and going back and playing all these sailing games that I used to love before I really got into sailing, and it's like that's not how sailing works. Yeah.
Well, I think we need to put a poll out, Dale, of what is the game that we're gonna vibe code with Chris. Is it gonna be a sailing game? Is it gonna be?
I got one of those in the works too.
See, we've got so many.
That one's very hard though.
Yeah. See, I love that about like everybody here is you can tell there's a passion that we're working on these things like in our free time. Like I was doing some VO3 testing over the weekend just because it's a fun model to play with, and you've got your dream games that you're going to be always, it sounds like you're always kind of tinkering with in your mind. I love that about this place. It's great. It's very cool. Well, we are coming towards the end. Chris, thank you so much for throwing yourself in here, man.
Thanks for having me.
You're the first one through the wall, so to speak. And it's clear, why you're a great developer over here is because of your unique background and just the way your mind works. Is that magic, that creativity that we have here at Groove, and that all goes to Dale, the partners, and everybody, top down. It's a really cool place that we have here, and I'm super glad to be a part of it. So thank you guys for joining the first podcast. This is cool.
Very good.
Thank
this
you.
Is fun.
Yeah. And we are going to be at AWE this weekend, or this whole week. So if anybody wants to come, we're in California. You want to come by and check us out? We're going to be talking all about AI. I know Dan has a big talk coming up. Tomorrow, which is going to be Wednesday. I don't know when this is going to go out, but we've got a lot of really cool things that we're working on at Groove Jones. So come over and hear all about them. So
beautiful.
All right.
Thanks,
Until
guys.
next time. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Bye. Thank you.
See ya.